G'day and welcome to part 6 of Quilting with Don. Today we're going to applique the kitties. So we're going to do the kitties for the Lap Kitties quilt. And it's going to be an adventure because I've never done this before. But first, I'm going to show you something that I promised I would previously, and it is Carolyn's antique sewing machine. No, this is not it. Although it's made by Singer, turns out that Singer's been making sewing machines for quite a while. So let me get into that and I'll show you what I mean. We have inside this case an antique Singer sewing machine. Here we are. Looks like a little piece of wood to let go here. Anyway, that can be glued. So here it is. This machine, by checking the serial number, I was able to determine that this machine was made in 1906. Once again, 1906, 125 years ago. That's how old this machine is. It's very cool. It was made by the Singer Manufacturing Company in Montreal. They had a big factory in Montreal, which went right up until 1906. So this machine was probably one of the last run of sewing machines that was made in that factory. Because after that, they moved to, at the time, it was called Saint John, Quebec. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So, 125-year-old machine, it works. We had it reconditioned. I intend to restore it cosmetically. One of my other hobbies is car paint, car shining, let's just say. I'm really good at cleaning, shining, buffing paint on cars. I make them look brand new. My current car is almost 10 years old and it looks brand new. Carolyn's is even older and it looks brand new. So I am certain with my polishes, waxes, cleaners, materials, buffers, whatever, I can very carefully restore the finish on this machine so it's as shiny as when it was brand new. The only thing I have to be very careful about is making sure I do not harm these decals, this gold work that is so beautiful. Because already on the top here it's worn away a bit. And that must be some place that get touched often. It says Sinner. It should say Singer, but the G is gone. So anyway, one of my future projects is going to be to restore this machine. But wait, there's more. Let me show you something else. Carolyn wasn't satisfied with one old sewing machine by Singer. Well, after we moved to the News Bay here, Carolyn also, with one of her quilty friends here in town, Carolyn made a trade for this. This is also a machine that's older than I am. It is called a Singer featherweight machine. It's portable. You carry it around in this little box here, wherever you want to sew. It is electric. You can see the motor here. This machine was made in Saint John, Quebec in 1952. Now, for those that say, I don't remember there being a Saint John, Quebec. There's a Saint John, New Brunswick, Saint John's, Newfoundland. Saint John went and changed their name to Saint Jean. Saint Jean sur Richelieu. Somewhere along the way, because obviously Saint John was not a good French name. And I'm sure those that have been following anything with Quebec history will not be surprised by that. But here we are. It's a beautiful little machine. It also needs a bit of restoration, but not nearly as much as this 125-year-old guy. So I'll do this one as well, make it all pretty. Carolyn has never used it, this featherweight. It probably needs a bit of servicing. She doesn't even know how well it runs, but I'm sure it's fine. It's going to need a little TLC, but I can attest, because Carolyn has used the antique machine, that it does work. It works quite well. As I say, everything's hooked up, it works, it sews. So there we are, a little bit of Singer history lessons. We have really old, pretty old, and I'm going to sew on the more modern, all right? Well, let's work through how I'm going to do applique. Now, I'm doing this with a bit of consultation from Carolyn, the quilting expert. Also, the first thing she did was say, read the instructions. So, that makes sense, doesn't it? How do you applique your kitty? Well, let's go over the materials first of all. Clearly, you need a pattern. And so, for example, I have this template for one of the kitties. Kitty number 7. He or she is the first one I'm going to do. This happens to be a relatively easy kitty, and you go from there. So the second thing you need, of course, is the material. Going through Carolyn's stash, maybe I should show you a picture of that at some point, or a video of that, because she's got a lot. Maybe not as many as others, but she definitely is not wanting in the material department. And what I'm going to do is use black. Look how good that looks against the yellows and the blues and the purples. Kept calling it blue last time, but I know they're purple. So, this is my material. The third thing you need, so that you can somehow interface the material and the template, is this fusible web. This is a cool product that it's like peel and stick in the sense that what you do is you try to show it out here. It's a little wonky. What you do is you measure, you take your template and you put it on top of the material of this fusible web, and you trace out onto the fusible web the pattern. Then the template can go away. Then you iron the fusible web. This is the fusible part. You iron the fusible web to the material. It's now stuck on. Actually, this is, if you can see it, this is the shiny side. That's the gluey side. So you iron the web with the pattern traced on it on the material. Then you cut it out. You cut it out to the exact shape you already drew on the fusible web. So, aha! So you think, well, there you go. I've got a kitty now. Almost. After you've cut out the kitty, let's just pretend that this is now a piece of black fabric that's in the shape of a kitty. Then you take the kitty and you iron it onto where you want it on the backing fabric, which in this case is the Rail Fence quilt. So clearly you got to fix the kitty to the quilt. That's where sewing comes in. Bring out the sewing machine then, and you sew it down so that the kitty is now physically attached via thread to the quilt top. Now, Carolyn says often what she does is just holds it up to a window with the natural light coming through, and the light shines through the paper template, and then you can see the dark lines and trace them on the fusible web. But she also came up with a cool idea using this sad light. I'll have to figure out what sad means at some point, but it's one of those lights you use to give yourself natural daylight for those, especially in the winter, when you need more light to make yourself feel good. So what you do then is very simply put the pattern onto the light, and that's what I'm going to do, and then I'm just going to trace. There we go. That seems to be a little more natural. Here we go. So I've done it. And it looks like we got a kitty drawn out on the paper. So the next phase now is to iron this guy down on the material. I have glued the template to the fabric. Voila. As you can see, the kitties should match from the template to the fabric. So now I'll let the cutting begin. There we have it. There we have it. One black kitty. Now watch this. Let me show you something. Let me show you something. This is what happens. See? I cut him out with the pattern like this. But this is the gluey side once you peel the paper off. So when you put him on the quilt, he's actually going to flip. And he's going to look like that. And you glue him to the fabric. The people who built the templates know this, and so all the templates are actually reversed because they know you're going to flip them to glue them. Isn't that cool? All right, so I am going to glue this black kitty to the material here. I don't know if it will show up here, but it's shiny. So now, I place the kitty where I want him, or her, it. Yeah. And that's my cat Wobbert in the background, probably giving me some advice on how to do this better, because he's always supervising. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2. You get the idea. And one more. So if we've done this right, I'll let it cool. The black cat is now stuck to the fabric. Back to sewing. It is now time to sew the kitties. I'm going to sew my first kitty, and if you recall, it wasn't that long ago, was it? I appliqued the first kitty on this panel, so there he is there. I'm using a foot now on the sewing machine that allows me to offset the needle by the 1/8 of an inch. So I use a guide right down the center of the foot, and I feed the kitty edge through the center of the guide, and then the needle is offset inside to the kitty on the left, my left, by about 1/8 of an inch.
Everything is awesome. Everything is cool when you're part of a team. Everything is awesome when we're living our dream. Everything is better when we stick together. Side by side, you and I gonna win forever. Let's party forever. We're the same, I'm like you, you're like me. We're all working on
Yeah, it looks alright. I only had one little wow there on the I think it was the tail. When the electrical foot got carried away. But we now have one appliqué kitty. Woohoo! I am so excited.
Life is good cause everything's awesome. Lost my job, that's a new opportunity. More free time for my awesome community. I feel more awesome than an awesome possum. Dip my body in chocolate frosting. 3 years later I shot the frosting. Smelling like a blossom, everything is awesome. Stepped in mud, got new brown shoes. Awesome to win and it's awesome to lose. Awesome to lose. Awesome to lose. Awesome to lose.
everything is better when we stick together. Side by side, you and I gonna win.
And there we have it, folks. Kitty number 2. Meow, 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 meow. I think I'm running out of steam today, but I'm really happy with the way the quilt is coming along so far. It is now almost 6 o'clock and Robert tells me it's dinner time. So it's probably time for a wee martini break. And as you can see, I have appliqued some of the kitties on the quilt. 2 of them over here are actually stitched. The other 3 I cut are just glued, so they still have to be stitched. That's tomorrow's work. But Barbara said it's time for a break. He says it's time for me to play with them. So everyone, it's been a pleasure so far, and we'll see you probably tomorrow morning. Cheers. Good day, and welcome to day 2 of part 6 of Quilting with Don. So I'm starting a little later today than I usually do because this morning I went scuba diving with some buddies. Vancouver Island and particularly News Bay is an amazing place for scuba diving. I got back into diving about 3 years ago when we moved here. I used to do it a lot before. We did it when we were living in Florida. I did it while we were living in Victoria many, many, many years ago. So it's another activity I enjoy, and it was a good morning. Beautiful sun, clear water, and saw all sorts of cool critters. But back to sewing and appliquing. So today I'm going to finish the last few kitties. Done. I have done all the sewing of the kitties. First I appliqued them all, and now they're all sewn on the backing. It's Actually, it turns out sewing applique, this is one of those cases, it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. About the only thing so far. Just went nice and slow. I was able to set up the sewing machine with the needle being offset from where the center of the foot is. And then I just kept the center of the foot on the edge of the fabric, and the needle was offset to the inside of the fabric, and I just went around the edge. Sure, you had to anticipate a bit when you're doing corners, but it worked out all right. So that's done. I'm very happy with it.